Welcome to the Best Places to Lead show. I am your host, Jerry McNamara, and I'm grateful you are here or that you've decided to hit play, right? You're going to hit play to listen to the episode. Hey, listen, we're on a mission to positively impact 5 million people through better business because I've never met anyone. I don't know about you, but I've never met anyone who showed up to work and said, you know what? I really want to suck at work today. So many people, though, they're ineffective. They're disengaged. It's not their fault. It's our fault as the senior leaders because we don't create the path where people feel engaged, predictable environments, fun, where imagine a place where people showed up and they loved what they were doing so much that they got surprised every 2 weeks when they got paid. That's my vision for what we do. And so we bring really smart, wonderful guests onto the show who share their experiences because we're always better together. And I don't care if we're 2 miles ahead or 2 steps ahead, there's always lessons that we can learn and share. And so I'm so grateful. Rex has joined us and Roanne has joined us and Kurt Thomas is in the house. I think Kurt is coming in. I don't know where he's coming in from, but I think he's on PTO too. So Kurt, thanks for taking time to be with us. Listen, this is going to be a fun conversation because we got a high energy guy. And I was just talking to my son, who's 6, about our guest because I loved his name so much. I said, Briggsy, guess who I have on the show today? And I told him we have Thomas Brainsky. And he goes, Dad, that guy has to be super smart. I said, I think you're right. We're gonna learn a lot from Thomas today. So Thomas, CEO behind Elite Operations, Bonifate Lab, and a partner in ProfitMax. And so he's gonna be reflecting on his experiences over his entrepreneurial career. And I'm grateful that you're visiting with us today, Thomas.
I am thrilled to be here, Jerry.
Listen, give me the backstory of how you come to be partners, entrepreneurs in 3 different businesses, 3 different industries. How did that happen?
You know, believe it or not, it all started because I got written up at my full-time job. I rose pretty quickly through a job with a company called ATA Airlines. At the time, they were the 10th largest major U.S. carrier. And I was in charge of their charter operations worldwide. And my boss wrote me up because I had recently gotten married. And even though I was pretty effective at my job, I had to go home. I lived on the East Coast, but I was based in our headquarters in Indianapolis, and I was commuting back and forth every week. And it was a very tough thing to do with a new marriage. And so my wife was not happy. And we literally had a sushi rolling class that we had scheduled to go to. And so the guy wanted me to go to Japan that weekend. I said, listen, I know what's going on in Japan. I'll be there the next week. It's fine. I'll take care of it. No big deal. And so I came in the next week and he wrote me up. And that one really ticked me off. And so I did my thing in Japan. I went home, had a heart-to-heart with my wife. And, I said, listen, I think I could do what I'm doing now, but do it for multiple airlines. I think I can do this. And, God bless her. She said, you know what, listen, if we got to flip burgers, we'll flip burgers. Follow your dreams. Now you can't beat that. And so that literally became a start of business Tom. And I started doing it and I started growing and I started replacing myself in the business and adding more heads and teaching people how to do it and expanded that company. And, the only downside with airlines is your clients is that they go bankrupt on Friday mornings. You can usually tell when this is going to happen because, it's, you hear that you feel some of the death pangs of the company beginning. And so you wake up on a Friday morning and you go to the bathroom, you look at your phone, just like I'm sure we all do. And boom, there it is. There's another client. They've gone bankrupt. And there's another $100,000 we're not going to get. And by the way, about 1.5 to 2 years later, we're going to get sued by their secure creditor trust, the Boeing, GE Capital, ILFC, those big guys, they go after the unsecured guys for everything that they got paid 90 days prior to bankruptcy. So that's a lot of fun. I actually got really good at dealing with those lawsuits. I stopped using lawyers and now I just contact opposing counsel, make a deal and call it a day. It's way cheaper. Learned that the hard way. And so at one point I said to my wife, maybe we need more baskets instead of all these eggs in this one basket. Let's get some other eggs and some other baskets. I saw a dental laboratory for sale. As a matter of fact, I didn't want the dental lab first. I wanted a poop hauling company. I wanted one of those trucks that hauls poop because I figured everybody poops. And
hold on.
Yes,
I hear that's a crappy business.
It's complete crap. But unfortunately, the guy's books were complete crap. He literally showed no profit, even though the guy had multi-million-dollar house all built with duty. And I couldn't get a loan for it because there were, the business was basically a profitless business, even though it was pretty legit. So that didn't work out. And then I was like, oh, well, there's this dental laboratory for some. My wife's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm like, no, come on, baby. It's dental. We're going to make a fortune. Don't do that. Well,
why was she skeptical? Like, gave the blessing on,
oh, she was right.
Go do this. And like, oh, don't do the buy and build one.
Yeah, she was right. It's a tough, the dental laboratory is a very tough business. I didn't realize that, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I'm an amazing failure and I make a lot of mistakes.
Me too. I'm going to fight you for it.
And from those mistakes, I get good at things, but it takes some really epic mistakes for that to happen. And so, yeah, we bought one of these dental laboratories, and right out of the gate, it wasn't great. And so what is the one thing you should do when things are not running well? You double down and you do it again. So I bought another one, and this time spent 2.5 times as much, because why not? And then I threw a ton of money into CAD/CAM software and CAD/CAM equipment and all this. I'm going to modernize this thing. I didn't know the first thing about it. And I thought, well, I've got technicians that work for me. They're technicians. They'll do it. And as it turns out, none of them could run a computer. So then I actually got to become the first CAD/CAM technician in my company. And I made probably the worst products that a dental lab could ever make because I didn't know what I was doing. Long story short, after almost losing the company by just a series of epic failures, I finally figured out how to run the company. And then we grew the company, and it was more of an organic build at that point. But we did do a little bit of buy and build with, absorbing some smaller labs very reasonably, and kind of grew it from there. And then did some significant organic growth, and then that opens up opportunities. And being an entrepreneur, when an entrepreneur sees something and there's an opportunity, the first thing you should say is yes, and then figure it out later. I mean, that's kind of my way of doing things, So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
I love it. First things first. I love that your wife was all in with you, right?
Oh.
I think about my crazy journey, and my wife has been like, yeah, go make it happen, right? I don't care what you do. Just make sure that you're happy, and make sure you make a couple bucks while you're doing it. And that is one of the greatest gifts that you can have in these pursuits. The second piece of it is it helps to have a little bit of capital.
Doesn't hurt.
That takes the day-to-day, pressures out of being able to grow and build a business, at least what I have found. So I think one of the things I want to dive in, which is probably my favorite story that I've heard in the last 60 days. Right? And so, one of my favorite quotes is, adversity makes men and prosperity makes monsters. And for me, one of the seminal moments of my career, we were raising venture capital. I literally went from a table where there was a $5 million check in the middle of the table that we turned down. And I went back to our office, and our accounting person pulled me aside, and she said, hey, Jerry, we can't make payroll this week. And I said, just tap the line of credit. And she said, I have been tapping the line of credit. In fact, what I learned in about 30 minutes was that we were $1.7 million in debt. Because instead of running the business, we started raising capital, which is running a business in and of itself, with meetings, venture capitals, all those things. And fighting our way back from that was super hard and super painful. You had a situation in your dental practice where your HR manager blew up the company. Tell us that story, because it's extraordinary.
Yeah, I don't think this happens other places. This is like a one of a kind of thing, I think. I've never heard anyone, when I tell the story, go, oh my God, that happened to me too. Like, that's not a thing.
First ever.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll last. Wouldn't wish it upon anybody. But yeah, it was an idle, like Wednesday, a Tuesday or Wednesday, a summer day. I'll say it's like end of June. And taking my wife's car to the dealer before I go to work, door handle problem, drop off the car, And so on my way back in the dealer shuttle, he's taking me to work, and I received this phone call from my HR manager. Now, she'd been with us for, I don't know, I think close to a year. And she just started yelling at me, and just saying some horrible things. And I'm like, well, what? She's like, well, you don't have a company anymore, all this other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So by the time I got to work, she managed to fire everyone in my company, told them all to go home. The company is sold. Good luck. You have no jobs. And none of it was true, but it freaked everybody out. I mean, human resources, right? You're going to trust her. She's got credibility. And to this day, I really don't know exactly why she did that. I mean, that's one heck of an overreaction to something. I mean, a previous day I'd said something about, well, we're having some issues with like billing and administrative stuff, but I mean, nothing like crazy out of the ordinary. And so, yeah, the company was basically gone by the time I got to work. I had two people that were just kind of sitting around going, I don't know what's happening. What do we do? I had a bunch of people that left. I had a manager who was so upset with me that he threatened to beat the crap out of me, and I had employees pulling him off of me. All while I'm trying to figure out what in the world just happened. And I'm like, a little stressed out. Everyone basically left that day except for one manager who decided to come back and stick it out with me, and a homeless kid that I had hired about a month before because he was dedicated and helped me through this day, which I thought was absolutely a miracle on his part. When you wake up and you have a company and everything is normal, and by the time you get to like 9:30 and you don't have anything and everything that you put into a business for the last 10 years is just completely up in smoke, you get a little stressed out.
So what are you thinking? I mean, you get to the office, there's a handful of people there. You're not exactly sure what's going on. One guy wants to fight you.
Yes.
You got to stop and go like, whoa, wait a second. I'm in a parallel universe here. What's the first thing that you were like, here's what I need to do?
Well, first of all, when the guy was threatening to beat me up and was coming after me, I think the normalcy bias or the idiot in me, hard to tell, was actually going towards him saying, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Like, he wants to kill me and I'm trying to reason with him. I ended up going in the building, but to answer your question, based on my experience in life, it comes down to identify a problem, work the problem, solve the problem. So now I'm dealing with a large problem, which has a series of smaller problems. And, those problems extended from, I have products that need to go to my clients. I have clients who are sending me stuff. I have things that need to be made. I have to see if I can get my technicians back. I have to see do I even have an admin team anymore? Do I have anyone in customer service? I have to figure out how I can communicate with these people and let them know that even though the trust was broken, I did nothing to break the trust. I need to figure out, if I sold my company, did I get a good deal? Who bought it? When was the closing? I hope I made good money. I mean, there were so many unknowns. So it just, it's one of those things where I just had to kind of sit down for a few seconds, and I didn't have long, and just go, what the hell happened? And really try and figure out, what do you do next? Which one of these major fires do you focus on first?
So how do you do that? Because I always look and say, there's always so many competing interests for leaders. And, I say this all the time, getting the right resources on the right opportunities is the key to success. So as you started to parse all of these things out, some of them are like immediate things. Others are like, well, FedEx will deliver the packages. They'll sit in the corners for a day or two, right? That one will take care of itself. How did you prioritize what needed to happen next? What were you thinking?
Well, the thing you got to consider is all the resources that I knew I had on a regular basis were gone. I mean, even if you want to consider FedEx, well, who's going to be the one to unbox everything from the way it is and rebox it up and create shipping labels and get it out? So, I didn't even go there first. It was just, how do I get my resources back? That became job number one, is who can I talk to? Who can I try and convince that I'm not Satan and no, the jobs are still there? How do I do that? And I mean, some people were just so badly hurt by the whole situation. And again, it's a shame because I didn't do anything wrong, that we just decided, everyone just go home, too wound up, don't want to be here. Fine. Go home, cool off, come back tomorrow. And so that became the message. Listen, we'll have a little chat today, come back tomorrow. We'll all sit down and just have a big heart to heart and try and figure it out. I didn't necessarily know who would be coming back. So that meant, okay, well, if I don't know who's coming back, I still have to work the rest of the day. So now I've got to call the clients that we're going to let down and probably delay whatever they've got us doing. I mean, I have to say at least the client base was extremely sensitive and compassionate. I mean, they've never heard of anything so crazy. And they're like, my God, let us know if we can do anything for you. I'm like, oh, thank God, sympathy out there, And then me and the homeless guy, just kind of working the phones and trying to organize things and just kind of keep some sort of momentum to try and reboot this thing. And so that's what we did, is we just kind of went step by step, and I started teaching him how to work as, in our customer service department. So that way I'd have a resource who could help answer the phones while I try and make other calls and make other decisions. And then there was that manager who, the only other person that stayed in production. She just kind of kept working through the day, trying to get things done. The next day, though, we had a giant heart to heart. I mean, tears were shared, and I was more open with this team than I think most business owners or CEOs would ever be. I mean, I learned a tremendous level of transparency on that one because it was out of absolute necessity, just trying to be as real as I could be. And I'm a pretty real person, but be as real as I could be, answer questions as honestly as I possibly could based on the way things came up, and had to address fears, well, listen, Tom, if you're going to sell the company, could you at least let us know? Well, how many business owners do that? If you think about it, I mean, when I bought this business originally, the second one I bought, I walked into the building after it was sold. And that's when it was like, oh, hey, by the way, this guy's the new owner. I mean, that was awful for them, so I wouldn't want to do that to any of these people. And so, I mean, at one point, much farther down the line, I even said to the staff, we're, running much better and everything's going fine. We had a trust built up, and I even openly said to staff, guys, I had a meeting, guys, I'm just letting you know, I don't have anything set up right now, but I would like to sell this company. I'd like to get it into private equity if I can. Here would be the benefits of us doing so. Let's all get on board with this and go at it from a team perspective, like a moonshot kind of thing, to try and build this thing up to a level that we can do that because we all get to benefit from that. So there was a lot of lessons learned and it was a very, very brutal, painful thing. I mean, I got to tell you that night I cried my eyes out by the time I got home. You put all this into it and you don't know what's going to happen the next day.
It's an incredible story.
It's insane.
And obviously you've rebuilt that company over the next couple of years, but still continuing to build it.
Still building, still operational. It is a tough business. Like I said before, this is a very difficult business to run.
Yep.
There's, you have to have people who are very technical, and that's hard to find. And they have to understand dental knowledge, which is even harder to find. This is not the highest paying business there is. So that makes it harder. Our clients want price cuts, but our suppliers increase their prices. And so it's a very difficult business to run. Yet we have managed to come out of build up out of the ashes. Yep. And, we're still continuing to kind of grow and fight the battles every day that we fight.
I love it. Be a historian for a second. So now you've come out of the ashes, still working on that business. Mm-hmm. What did you learn in setting the business up? Any changes that you make? Or what would you do differently as you come out of this? Because while it's one of the craziest stories, I have heard stories where, man, a whole department walks out of a company because
hold my beer.
Right, exactly, right. So it's not or key employees leave the building, 2 or 3 of them and start another business. Be that historian for someone faces this situation and go like, thank God I listened to Tom.
That's a great question. The number one thing that you need to do to protect your business before anything stupid does happen. And I mean, I doubt this would happen to anyone. So, God bless you all. You probably don't have to deal with it. But when bad things happen, the number one thing you should do is planning ahead. And what that means is make sure that your business is structured for scalability. What I did, instead of just continuing to try and hire expensive technicians and tie myself to that, which is not the worst way to run a company. Many dental labs do function that way. Is I started video recording and documenting every single thing that we do. We now have a way of pulling kids off the street and training them. Within a few weeks, they are productive and producing quality products. And we've been able to cross-train them and upgrade them and, give them careers that they could work with and knowledge that they could work with in rapid time. So that way, if something insane happens again, the time it's going to take to spool one person up, much less 5 people up, has been cut significantly. And it takes a lot of the pressure. It takes a ton of pressure off of me, knowing that, you know what, if a key player leaves, it's not great, but the sky is not going to fall.
I think it's such great advice. And most people, the pushback that I get is, I don't have time to do that.
Oh, no, everyone has time. It's not hard. See, it's so simple. Most people think that they have to invest time in this. I did not create many videos myself. As a matter of fact, I created very few. But I recognize that every one of my employees has something called a phone. And so all I had to do was get a couple of tripods, some that stand up on the floor, some of them can't stand on a desk, as well as I use Filmora Wondershare Filmora. for screen recording. And it doesn't matter. We can literally record everything, whether it's on screen or, in real life with a phone, edit it very, very quickly and upload it to a private YouTube channel. And bam, we have an entire list of how to run our company in any task.
It is amazing. One of the things, Maria, who is my assistant on the call, one of the things that when we started working together, which we're coming up on 2 years now.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. She records all the things that she's done. There's a checklist that goes along with it, a screen recording, it goes to a Trello board. Because if Maria ever chooses to do something different, which that would make me very, very sad. Maria, don't choose to do something different. If she chooses to do something different, then I don't have to start from scratch to say, oh, here's what I need you to do to help me be successful as an entrepreneur and the CEO, right? We're already way ahead, and like, sit down, let me give you access to credentials and start watching these videos, and you'll at least be 80% of the way there.
Yeah. I mean,
so I think it's a great investment in scale.
And it's not expensive and not time consuming. It really isn't, because all you have to do is just have your own people do what they do. Just sit there and say, well, on this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this hand. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that hand to do that. And this is why I do that. Boom. That's it. Edit, post, done. You have it. I mean, I've even documented videos on how I hire, how I place an ad in Indeed. And, once I get applicants, this is what I do and how I handle it. I mean, as much as I can, I've done that. And I'm still, to this day, finding different ways of documenting things that we do to just make sure that if anything ever happens to me, this place will be fine.
Totally. And I think that is a responsible entrepreneur.
Damn right. You're looking at it.
It stays right here in your head. And, I used to ask some of my franchise owners, hey, if a bus hits you, did the business just die on the front of the bus?
Yes.
Or is everything documented and recorded? And, the local guy that you have a relationship with that owes the company 50 grand, do we know that? Is that written down somewhere, in your sock drawer? And so being in that space of avoiding people either borrowing your brain or borrowing your hands is a result of you not documenting things well. And so if you take that responsible mindset to say, here is how we do business at Proven Chaos. Here's our approach. Here's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Why is it important? How do you do it? That is the framework that I try and walk our way through. Here's why it's important. Here's how you do it. Everyone then gets it. And so I think it's one of the just a brilliant things that small business people do not do.
Nope, they're terrible at it.
It's the key to scaling your business.
It is. There was an analogy that I used, or I threatened basically for one of my managers, and this is someone who, would always do. They'd always want to be the hero. Listen, don't worry about. I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I'll do it. No, I'll take care of it. And I'm like, it needs to stop. And I literally threatened to put boxing gloves on her hands. I'm like, I want you to do your job with boxing gloves. Now, this is a detailed job. You need fingers. You cannot do this job in boxing gloves. But the idea was, if I just simply have your brain and your mouth, and you have to use that, but you can't use your hands. Now do your job. And eventually it connected, and what a difference it made.
I love it. Tell me about, how did that experience change your beliefs about business and your journey?
I've never been one who can't handle pressure. I mean, I've had Mexican federales point guns at me. I've had Jordanian military security point guns at me. I've had the minister of oil for a small oil-rich nation in the Middle East personally threaten to put me in jail. I've had someone blow up my company. All of these things have at least taught me to be wildly resilient and never panic and just go with the flow. And as I said before, identify a problem, work the problem, and solve the problem, whatever that is. And it's just being very methodical about that, not succumbing to the panic and the pressure, because the panic and the pressure can certainly be there and completely overwhelm you. So you just have to breathe through it and keep pushing forward without giving up. It's actually simple.
Simple, not easy.
Oh, definitely not easy, but actually extremely simple.
We talked a little bit about build and scale versus organic growth. And, we joked about, I think you had just attended a seminar, and they said some of the best businesses to get into, guys, guns, and fixing stuff.
Guys with trucks that fix shit.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. If a CEO has a nice business and they're thinking about how do I accelerate this thing? How do I make it go a little bit faster? What do you think is the better approach?
I've done both. There's a lot of fun and excitement with buying and building. I happen to prefer buying and building. The wildly successful CEO who was doing this seminar, and I will credit him, his name is Adam Coffey. He feels the same way. Obviously, his is a much larger scale. He has built and sold, it built up and, exited multiple billion-dollar deals. I'm nowhere near that. But I do like the buy and build in the aspect that you immediately can take on new clients. You're immediately bringing in new revenue. You can immediately begin to synergize things to become more powerful and more effective. I think that you do grow much faster with that. It comes with its own complexities because just because you have similar companies, depending on what they are, doesn't mean that they will gel perfectly. Teams do not gel perfectly. Processes do not gel perfectly. And so those challenges are for real. They're not the end of the world. They require a lot of thought. They require a lot of planning. And when you don't plan them and think them out, then it just gives you a lot more headaches and a lot more challenges that you could fight through. Organic growth is okay. I don't love it. It is too slow for me. The benefit with organic growth is you're not outlaying a lot of cash. You're not building too fast, but you're sort of waiting and watching and kind of turning knobs and dials and hitting switches to see what you can tweak this way or that way to grow organically.
What should people be thinking about? Is it just personal preference? Like, oh, I have the capital, let me make it go faster. Or are there certain hallmarks like, hey, let me go make sure the culture is good inside this business, even if the economics are good? Right. I mean, if there are a lot of complexities when you're buying the business, you're not just buying the dollars and the widgets going through the system. You're buying the people. And that's really the complexity that goes along with it.
You made an extremely valid point right there, which is the culture. A lot of small businesses, myself included, learn the hard way. You have to consider the culture before you make a move. But most small businesses, when they try and do this, they don't. They look at the dollars, the cents, the profit and loss. They compare they compare, year over year financials. They may take a look at the facility. They may go, ooh, I can do this and I can do that. I can merge this and that. But without actually seeing the people and being around the people and getting a feel for them, you actually don't know what you're taking on. And you actually could be taking on an albatross, right? Although on paper, it looks like the greatest idea you've ever had. So culture is extremely important. In my own companies, and it doesn't matter which one, I do not ever personally hire by resume. I do not care. I do not care how educated somebody is. I do not care how experienced somebody is. I care about attitude and I care about aptitude. Those are number one for me. Everything else is secondary. And that in itself has provided a really good culture. The teams that I have, whenever they work together, they all work very well together. And to me, that's one of the most important things a business can do, or a business owner should be doing, is trying to cultivate that team to work really well together, to play nice together, to help each other out, to never have the attitude of, that's not my job. For me, I hear that's not my job, and that is like strike one, you're almost out the door.
You know how I combat that, Thomas? Since I've been 23, the last line of every job description I have ever written is to do anything at any time to ensure the company's success. And I tell people, when I bring them in and invite them on the mission, if you ever say, that's not my job, you are right, because you no longer have a job. That is the number one principle of how we work. And, I've run high growth companies. And there's times where it's like, I don't want anyone to do that. I know it's not your job, Thomas, but I need your help and I'm hiring for it. But right now, can you clean the bathroom this week? I mean, that's what we need. And when you have that mindset, it just changes the dynamic of what's possible because people buy into that and we are just so much better together. It's incredible.
Most business owners, and I don't blame them, but most business owners are afraid of firing. Oh, if I fire, then I've got to hire. And, I've got to deal with unemployment and all of that. And I mean, to me, I don't particularly enjoy firing. I don't like a turnover. I do everything I can to avoid it by actually hiring people with good attitudes and aptitudes. Mm-hmm. However, when those people, show their true colors and they don't belong, I feel as though I am doing them a favor when I escort them out the door and help them and serve them by allowing them the space to begin maybe a career or a job they will be happy with, because they're not happy here and they don't belong here.
That's right. We align 100% on that. I see Maria nodding her head. We've had this conversation a number of times. Let's talk about the team, right? Because we don't do it alone. People talk about the business, and listening to your story about the laboratory, if anyone's confused about what a business is, it's all about the people who are inside your building, who make the stuff happen, turn the wheels, do all the stuff that needs to happen. It's all the rest of it is kind of irrelevant. I mean, I've run 5 businesses, 5 different industries. Business is widgets. It's who you put in the mission with you that make all the difference to make sure that this is a fun experience, it's a compelling environment, and people are doing their best work. Then we get the heck out of the way.
That's correct.
Aptitude and attitude. What else are you thinking about as you're building your teams? Because you're a partner in one business, entrepreneur, CEO in 2. You're not doing that alone, right? You can't sit over top of all of those companies at the same time at any given. So what are you thinking about when you're looking to build your team?
First of all, you never want to be a micromanager. That is the biggest mistake anyone can make.
Why is it?
You'll never get anywhere. You'll never get anywhere. You will always be pigeonholed to only as strong as your own strengths and never grow beyond it. It's a whopping mistake. For me, it's, again, attitude, aptitude, training. We actually, whether it's ProfitMax, which I train new agents weekly. At my dental laboratory, we train our staff daily. We literally train our entire team. We stop for 15 to 20 minutes a day, every day, and train them every day. They get better and better and better. I'm wildly transparent, though I don't sit there and whip out my QuickBooks. Everyone knows up to the minute, because I have a dashboard that hangs from on a TV, hangs from the screen. It tells, what is our sales performance? How are we doing on goals? Are we on time? What is our remake rate? I even share with everyone, what is our direct labor? I've set goals for our direct labor percentages and where are we every single day based on that. So that way there's no confusion about how the company is running. I'm not a big fan of, let me just keep all this information to myself. And so if they can see that the company is not running well, they actually have responsibility, if they want their jobs, to pay attention to that, instead of me sitting there going, okay, everyone, I need everyone to work harder now. I don't do that. Look at the board. We'll talk about it every day. We have KPIs that we follow, and it gets covered every day in our meetings. And like I said, training. So that way we're constantly building this team to be better and better and sharper and sharper. It's critical.
I'm always amazed. And I tell the story where I was not trained to snowboard, and third run ever down a hill, I was on a double black diamond, and I hurt myself because when you don't know what you're doing going down a double black diamond, it doesn't work out so well. And I thought, this is what business owners do. We hire people and then we put them at the top of the hill on the double black diamond, the hardest, run that you're going to have. And we say, good luck, Thomas, figure out the business. And
I'll show you. Watch me.
It up. Right.
My favorite is, here, watch me, then you can do it.
Right. Doesn't happen.
No, it's terrible. And most small businesses do that. It's such a mistake.
Yeah. There's such a gap there that you can cure through some really great training. Walk me through, because you can't make all the decisions because you're not inside every one of these businesses all the time. You can make the strategic ones, right? But how do you balance the need for quick decision making, which I think is important inside? People don't feel stuck and gummed out like, oh, Thomas isn't here, so we can't decide. And involving your team in the decision making process. How do you work your way through that?
There are certain things that will actually, I'll either myself or my management team will poll the audience. What do you guys think? Here is the problem we're facing. What are your thoughts on how to solve it? Now, I have empowered my managers and I have taught them a lot, and I continue to teach them and show them things so that way they feel empowered enough to make decisions. I personally do not get involved very much anymore in a lot of the day-to-day decisions that take place in my business. Even in my aviation business, I don't personally have to get involved in the minute decisions anymore because I've empowered people to do that. Now they may come to me and hey, what's your thoughts on this? And I'll give it to them. But what I've said, and I always say this to anyone who is a manager for me, anyone I put in a leadership position, I give them all the same basic spiel, which is, I want you to go ahead and fix the problem, whatever the problem is, you address it. And then you can come to me and tell me what you did. And I'm not going to yell at you. Now, if I don't like what you did, I'm going to tell you I didn't like what you did. And I'll tell you what I would have done instead or what you should do next time. But I want you to be the one to do that. I'm not going to club you over the head because you made a mistake. because that's how they learn. And I mean, I learned from making mistakes. I have to expect the same from other people. No one is perfect.
I think it's a critical thing. A number of episodes before I talked about frameworks, decision-making frameworks, hiring frameworks. And to me, that's all about the scaffolding to create a scaling business. And the more clear we are on, here's how we make a decision. And so once we give them that tool, then people can say like, oh, we should be able to repeat that decision, no matter Thomas makes it, Jerry makes it, Marie makes it, whoever makes it. And so those are the things like, well, did you follow the process to make the decision and come to the conclusion?
Right.
Because once I give you that, then again, people aren't borrowing my brain or my hands, and I get to go do other things. And those people feel empowered on here's the objectives of the company. Here's what we're trying to achieve. And it's the way in which companies can scale. And we just don't do a good job of taking what's in our heads as leaders or as the entrepreneur and getting it onto video or onto paper so that other people can make the same decision that we would make.
You know what I like though? I happen to really like when someone will come to me and say, yeah, you know what? I didn't exactly follow what you taught me. I improved on it. I love that. I love that. And giving people the freedom to do that makes my job so much easier. I was out of town doing my airline thing for about 12 days. And so I wasn't in my dental laboratory. And, I was texting back and forth as I was on the other side of the world. And, I was just texting this manager and, he's going back and forth on some things. And I'm like, listen, if you're not satisfied with the process, you fix it. And he wrote me back and said, oh, I've already been doing that. We'll see when you get back. Like, I love that. That's if a business owner looks at that and goes, geez, that's a bad thing. They shouldn't be managing people. And there's a lot of people out there that do that, where they feel that they have to be the ones that come up with all the good ideas. I'd much rather not be the one that comes up with I want to hire people who come up with much better ideas than I do. And it's not like I'm the first person that ever says that, but it's critical for growth.
But I think that the balance is actually giving people the confidence to hand the reins over.
Yeah.
Like, here are the goals. Help us achieve it. Right. I mean, I realized early on, I was helping scale a business that went from 7 million to 30 million in 3.5 years. I was like, whoa, I cannot be involved in every decision. So here were the guardrails that I put in the company, which was wow our customer and treat our people as partners. And everyone knew that the first question I was going to ask them was, in this decision, did you either wow the customer, or did you treat our people as partners? People were our employees, our vendors, and our suppliers. And if there was an alignment there, great. My approach might have been different, but Thomas, I'm always going to back you up. And so when you give people the rules of the game, it allows them to ease, right? We create that predictable, fertile environment for engaged, autonomous, and agile decisions. That's what our job is as the leader.
It builds that confidence in them.
The details of it, tweak the system. Great.
Make it better. It's fine. Yeah. It's building their confidence. You can do this. I trust you.
So I used to say that. Use good judgment. I trust you. Let's said that a million times. People are like, yeah, I know. Use good judgment. I trust you. But it comes back to someone like you would easily get gun shy with trust and micromanagement, having gone through the experience of having an HR manager tell everyone the company's been sold and you've been laid off. And yet you've been able to come back and go like, yeah, no, but these are the foundations of how you do things right. And I just think people have inadvertent consequences to how they act inside the business that actually hamper people from being successful and actually adds time and stress onto them as the CEO and entrepreneur.
Totally.
It's crazy to me.
Totally. And they do that.
Tell me about this, right? Because I think you've been in both of these roles. And John Cavendish, who's the CEO of Seller Candy, he was in from Vietnam and was here for the summit. He asked this question about what's the difference between being a CEO and being an entrepreneur?
I mean, to me, a CEO it's a little bit more complex. It is a lot more detail, a lot more responsibility. You do get a lot more involved in day-to-day growth, caring about the numbers of a company, the function of the company, development of the company, building the team and all of that. Entrepreneur, just out of the box entrepreneur, is more of that free spirit that, yeah, you know what? This opportunity that you've presented me with, yeah, I'm going to say yes. I know nothing about it. I'll figure it out later. And that's just kind of my take on that one. Entrepreneurs tend to just go for it and figure it out. And CEOs typically are a little bit more methodical as they go through their challenges.
I love that. I've obviously given this thought too. And I think the best response that I've heard so far, at least that resonated with me, was that entrepreneurs inject risk into the company and CEOs mitigate risk in the company. And I'm like, that one's pretty good.
That makes a lot of sense.
And
that's pretty accurate.
Entrepreneurs are like, oh, let's try shit. Let's see if this works. Let's try and make this happen. And the CEO's like, whoa, wait a second. Have we run a profit and loss statement? Have we done the due diligence on the company?
Yes.
On my pillow last night, I saw the numbers. Everything looks good. I promised.
Right.
Trust me, man. So many good insights here. So much fun. Listen, last question, which is, what question didn't I ask you that I should have asked that would really help other leaders and entrepreneurs?
So I'm going to go a slightly different direction than this, and I'm going to kind of point, believe it or not, towards ProfitMax on this one.
Okay.
Because business owners, business leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, they're all making one gigantic mistake, and they have no idea that they're making it. Okay. And I actually got into this particular entity because I was making this mistake. And this one does not necessarily have to do with culture or anything that we've talked about per se, but yet it is a critical mistake. And when pointed out and addressed, it makes a world of a difference.
Okay.
So believe it or not, 93% of business owners overpay in their taxes, which means that 7% of them are paying their fair share, and they overpay somewhere between 34 and 71%, which is massive. Yeah. So that's why I got into and partnered with ProfitMax, because I discovered that my own CPA, who most of us trust our CPAs, they're great, they do a great job. They don't necessarily think strategically. They always tend to look backwards. What did you do? How can I mitigate your taxes? So I'm basically going to give everyone who's watching this a gift. I'm going to help them not have to pay tax, or at least reduce their taxes.
Love it.
Because that is one area where you figure, Jerry, there's 3 ways to increase your profits, right? You could either sell more, you could cut costs or increase your prices, or you could pay less taxes. That's your top 3 right there. So I'm actually going to help them with that. And so anyone who's watching this, I'm inviting you all to, contact me, and we can jump on a call and we can get you started, and you can learn about how you can actually save or pay no tax, save money, increase your profits, and set yourselves up to where you might even be able to get tax credits that could pay you hundreds of thousands. I mean, I've got clients. I just one this past week, $1.2 million they're getting back as a refund from the government for things that they've overpaid that they didn't even know that they overpaid. So I'm happy to do that for viewers.
I'll tell you, I was on a call earlier today, and 2 associates running companies. One is from June 2021. He's still waiting on a payroll tax refund of $250,000. And another one, we were waiting on, he has 3 companies that are all integrated. We're waiting on like $1.1 or $1.2 million. It took us 18 months to find. I mean, it was congressional intervention. I mean, it was craziness. So when you look at that, I don't know that anyone particularly enjoys dealing with the IRS and the weight and the hassles. So doing it right on the front side, and you're right, most CPAs are compilers. They're not strategic. And hey, what about this? What about that? It's just like, oh, here's what the numbers are. We dump them into this sheet and we send it off.
So with ProfitMax, you have to look at it this way. We're tax strategists, right? So where a CPA is looking in the rear view mirror, a strategist is looking at you and they're looking through the windshield. All right. And they're like, well, where are we going the next 3 to 5 years? How can we mitigate taxes over the long term? What can we do now? What can we do with what you've already done? What can we do to make sure that this year, next year, the next year can get better? So, you have to look at it this way. If you're a business owner, and the whole reason I'm doing this is because I made this mistake and it was bad, and now I understand it and I know what to do with it. Yeah. It's not hard, but
it is interesting. And
focus forward, proactive, it will actually give you as a business owner, and I apologize for interrupting, money to run your business. Hello.
Right. What we need. Well, what we started with, capital is a great gift. One of the things that I recommend to people that I work with is, depending on the size of the business, you should be proactively calling your CPA firm on a quarterly basis to update them to say, here's where we're at. We're trending ahead of schedule. We're doing this, we're doing that. Because a lot of times there's things that you can do along the way, or plan purchases, but you get too far into the year, and it's like I wish we could have made these moves earlier. And so I've seen that firsthand.
Well, I'm going to share with you one of the top 3 mistakes that people make is, and I'm not trashing CPAs, so please don't
Oh, for
get the wrong
sure.
idea. No, they're critical, right? But one thing that people at least have to understand, and I've actually had CPAs, my own CPA admitted this to me when I pointed out that I was right, which is, they're so busy from January to April, right? But then they're busy all the way to September for all those other businesses that filed extensions. And so they don't exactly have all the time in the world to go for every single tax deduction there is. So believe it or not, there's between about 17 to 22 deductions that they work with. All right. And there's the main ones. They're universal, they're easy, minimal documentation. Here you go. But if that's what's taking place, and even if you are trying to talk to them about, I'm thinking about doing this or thinking about doing that, they don't have the time to really focus because they're going to get to, September, they're going to take a small break in life. They got to figure out what some of the new changes are in the tax code, which, by the way, the tax code changes like rapidly every year. And then they go right into the next season. And so they don't have the time to do it effectively. And so that's why going for strategy, it plays a really big role in improving your bottom line, because that's the one area that even a damn good CPA, unless they aren't focused on the thousands of filings they have to get in by certain deadlines, they're not able to keep up.
Yeah, no doubt. Great stuff. Thank you for the offer. Thomas, how do people find you? How do they take advantage of that? Maria will certainly put that in the show notes, but how do we get in contact with you? Where are the best places to find you?
Why, I am so glad you asked. Thomas at ProfitMax.co. That's Thomas at ProfitMax.co. And one more time, Thomas at ProfitMax.co. So you can reach me there. You can go to ProfitMax.co's website. And I'm available. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. So you look for Thomas Brainsky and you'll find me. And I'm usually posting something of entertaining value somewhere, somehow.
I love it. Well, I have been entertained and inspired. So I really,
as you should be, Jerry.
I am.
Yes.
I am. That's why I invited you to the show. This has been great. Listen, one thing that I'm not good at, Thomas, that I've learned along the way, Maria always yells at me. She doesn't yell very often. She yells at me about this. And it's that I don't ask for enough help. And so I'm on a mission to positively impact 5 million people. You can't do that without asking for people to come on the mission with you and to help. And so if you've enjoyed the insights that Tom has shared with us, I would invite you to stop, like, comment, send a text and tell someone, you know what, you should really listen to the Best Places to Lead show because they have smart entrepreneurs, leaders, and CEOs on the show that we can learn from each other. And that is what my favorite thing is. It's why we're bringing people together. I say this all the time. I've had my teeth bashed in. Tom, you've had your teeth bashed in. I don't care if you're 2 miles ahead or 2 steps ahead. You don't have to make the same mistake I do. I'm willing to share them with you. And so please do that. Listen, next week, I interview Nellie Akel from, oh gosh, this woman she's a dynamo. She's an author, speaker, small business expert. Her first business, she grew a high growth business. She then sold it. They did corporate filings in all the states, sold it, sat out her non-compete and started basically the same business again. She's now made the Inc. 500. I think it's 5 or 6 years in a row. Again, a second time around. This is incredible. And is also a Best Places to Work. It's a fun, truly inspiring story. She's going to be a great guest. So I'll be excited to have her. Hopefully you guys will come join us again next week, which will be July 27th, 3:30 Eastern time. So in the meantime, Thomas, thanks again for your time. Really appreciated the insights.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.